Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Welcome to another wonderful session of Grammar Live with me, Alexander. As you know, I want to find out how you have been so far. And I want to trust your week and your days has been fruitful. I again want to believe that you've taken the initiative to practice and we are still practicing all that we've done so far and what we are currently doing. So as a way of a recap, we would like to briefly go through what we did last week. So give me a minute, let me take you through as we look at what we did last week. All right, so last week we started with tenses. We started with tenses. And we say the word tenses is a Latin word which means tempus. And the meaning of the word tempus is time. From there, we look at the dictionary definition of tenses or tense. We looked at the dictionary definition of tenses or tense. We say a tense is a verb and is defined as a verb-based method used to indicate time and sometimes the continuation or the completeness of an action or a state in relation to the time of speaking. So we define tense or a tense as a verb-based method used to indicate time and sometimes the continuation or completeness of an action or a state in relation to the time of speaking. From there, we proceed to say that the concept of tense in English is a method that we use to refer to time. So the concept of tense in English is a method that we use to refer to time. And here we say the time talks about the past, the present, and then the future. The past, the present, and the future. That is what the concept of tense in English talk about. We're going to go on to say that even though the tenses are used to talk about time, there are some special constructions that we can use to also talk about the future. So tenses are not the only way that we can use in talking about or to talk about the future, but there are some special constructions that we use to talk about the future. When we say going to is a special construction that we use to talk about the future. From there, we say that one tense does not always talk about one time. One tense does not always talk about one time. What we mean is that, for example, we can use the present tense or the past tense to even talk about the future. We can use the past tense or the present tense to talk about the future. So one tense does not always talk about one time. From there, we talk about the component of English tenses. Where we say there are two main components of English tenses, which are the time and aspect. What we say the time talks about the past, which is before now. The present talks about now or any time that includes now. And then the future, which talks about after now. So that's the first component of the English tense, which is time. The second one is aspect. And we say an aspect can be progressive. Progressive means uncompleted or unfinished action. And then it can also be perfective. Perfective here means completed action or state. We then say that in putting these elements together, they give us the 12 tenses that we use in English. So we say the progressive aspect produces what we call the progressive or the continuous tenses. So the progressive gives us the past continuous, present continuous, future continuous. And then the perfect aspect produces what we call the perfect tenses. That is the past perfect, present perfect, and the future perfect. Now, and the two aspects, that is the progressive and the perfective, combine to produce what we call the perfect continuous tenses. They combine to give us what we call the perfect continuous tenses. And under the perfect continuous tenses, we have the past perfect continuous, the present perfect continuous, and the future perfect continuous. So all these elements, that is the time and aspect, combines to give us the 12 tenses that we have in English. Now, tenses in English are not limited to 12 because further forward, we can use modes and voices to come up with extra or more tenses. But for the basics, these are the basic 12 tenses that we use in the English language. Right from there, we say that it is important not to confuse the name of the verb tense with the way we use it to talk about time. We say it is important not to confuse the name of a verb tense with the way we use it to talk about time. Here we say a present tense does not always refer to a present time. A present tense does not always refer to a present time. And we have an example, I hope it rains tomorrow. So even though the verb here is rains, but the sentence is referring to a future time, not a present time. And again, a past tense does not always refer to a past time. A past tense does not always refer to a past time. And then we look at the example, if I had money now, I could buy it. If I had money now, I could buy it. That was what we talked about last week. And in today's series, we want to look at the present tense. We want to look at the present tense and see what the present tense talks about. So we're saying that the present tense is a grammatical tense used for verbs that describe an action happening now. So anytime we want to talk about an action happening now, we use the present tense to talk about it. As I'm continuing, I would like to encourage you to share the links with your friends, invite them in, keep sending in your comments, your questions, and contributions on all that we've done so far. So present tense. The present tense is a grammatical tense used for verbs that describe an action happening now. It is considered easy to use and exists in all languages. So there is no language on earth that does not include present tense, or there's no language that does not use the present tense. The present tense is present in every language, and it is considered easy to use. It is considered easy to use. So the present tense is a grammatical tense used for verbs that describe an action happening now. The present tense is broken down into 4 different categories. So when we take the present tense as a whole, it is broken down into 4 different categories. We have the present simple, present continuous, present perfect, and then the present perfect continuous. Present simple, present continuous, present perfect, and the present perfect continuous. These are the 4 main categories of the present tense. So today we want to talk about the first one, that's the present simple. That is the present simple. So we're saying that this form of the tense, when describing general or constant or regular everyday activity, we use the present simple tense to describe general, constant, and regular everyday activity. Anytime we want to talk about a general, a constant, and a regular everyday event or activity, we use the present simple to talk about it. For example, the boy swims, meaning it's a regular activity for him. The monkey sleeps is a regular activity for him. for it. The dog barks. It's a regular activity for it. Rain is scarce in the desert. In this instance, it is a constant or a general event. So when we talk about the present simple, we use the present simple to describe general, constant, or regular everyday events or activities. Regular everyday events or activities. So that is the first use of the present simple, to describe general, constant, and regular everyday events or activities. Again, we use the present simple to describe common facts. We use the present simple to describe common facts, such as a circle is round, and it's a common fact that a circle is round. I have never seen a circle that is hexagonal or rectangular before. A circle is always round. A triangle has 3 sides. A triangle has 3 sides. I have not seen a triangle with 8 sides before. And this is a common fact. The earth rotates on its own axis. The earth rotates on its own axis. And this is also a common fact. So anytime we are talking about common facts, we use the present simple to describe common facts. The present simple tense is used when generally repeated actions occur. Again, the present simple tense is used when generally repeated actions occur. Here, the actions are not only limited to the moment of speaking. So when generally repeated actions occur, which are not limited to the moment of speaking, we describe such repeated actions with the present simple. And again, when describing events that occur consistently. So anytime we are describing events that occur consistently, we use the present simple tense to talk about it. The present simple tense is also used to describe habits. It is also used to describe habits. It is also used to describe habits. So, for example, the bus to Midland leaves every half hour. The bus to Midland leaves every half hour. Here, you are describing or you are talking about a generally repeated action. A generally repeated action. The bus to Midland leaves every half hour. Google sleeps only 6 hours every day. Google sleeps every 6 hours every day. The restaurant opens at 7 a.m. every morning. So you notice that all these are generally repeated actions, even though they don't really happen at the moment of speaking. So all these activities are described with the present simple tense. The present simple tense. Now, you can form a positive sentence using a verb without to. So in forming the present simple tense using the verb, we always omit or we form it without the verb to. We always form it without the verb to. Now, when you are dealing with the third person singular, that is he, she, and it, you add either s to the verb and es to the verb if it ends with either an sh, a ch, an x, or an s. So apart from the third person singular that takes either an s or es, the remaining persons, that is the first person singular plural, second person singular plural, and the third person plural, you don't add s or es to the verb to form the present simple tense. So for example, I swim every day. I is a first person singular, so the verb swim does not take s or es. She runs once every week. She here is a third person singular. So per the rule, because it ends with an N, you add an S to it and use it in a third person singular. He rides his bicycle to work on Thursdays. He rides his bicycle to work on Thursdays. Here, he is a third person singular. So the verb carries an S. The verb carries an S. Now, in negative and question sentences, we use do not or does not. In negative and question sentences, we use do not, does not for negative sentences, and in questions, we use do or does. So when we talk about negative sentences, we either use do not or does not. And when we come to questions, we use do or does. Now, we use does for the subject he, she, or it. So anytime you are dealing with the third person singular, using the present simple tense, we use does. So he does, she does, it does. In the same way with the negative sentences, he doesn't, she doesn't, it doesn't. Apart from the he, she, or it, the remaining persons, first person singular plural, second person singular plural, and third person plural uses do not or do. For example, do they swim on Thursdays? Do they swim on Thursdays? Do they swim on Thursdays? On this note, we bring today's session to an end. So as a way of recap, we looked at the present simple today. And we say the present simple is used to describe generally reoccurring actions happening now, everyday activities, general truth or truth for a very long time, and then we use the present simple to talk about habits. On this note, I'd like to thank you so much for your time and your attention and your contributions. I wish you the very best of the day. Continue practicing and always remember that with grammar, you will speak better. See you next time.